All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar with our friend Roland Nairnsey. My name is Anya Chrysanthemum. I'm going to be your hostess with the mostest per usual. But today I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of talking, so I'm going to let Roland do most of the talking today. So I'm super excited to have Roland on. If you haven't had the pleasure of interacting with Roland previously, let me tell you, you guys are going to have so much fun. That's one of the things with Roland. All of his trainings are just a lot of fun. So without any further ado, well, thank you. Yes, you're welcome. So Roland, why don't you give us a quick introduction of who you are before we get started?
And in the beginning, there we go. Thank you. Thank you, first of all, Anya, for organizing this, and John Lee at Anugo. I'm so thrilled to be here. You have a great company, and I'm just so honored to know you and to work with you and collaborate. So thank you for the opportunity, and I can't wait to share with you the details on. We all know the market shifted, so we're going to talk about what we can do to embrace the market and succeed in it. As far as my background, for those that don't know you, sorry if I'm screaming here. I'm just a little bit overexcited, I think. So for those that don't know me, I've been a national trainer for just over 20 years now. I get all over the country. I have sales teams all across North America. I'm very lucky, very passionate about what I do. I think one of the things that sets me apart is that I have sold homes my whole career. For those that don't know me, you can hear my slight accents. I came from England originally, from London, and I started selling real estate in my very early 20s, and that's all I've ever done. I started selling new homes in 1987. So everything I talk about today and everything that I teach, all my workbooks and books are from my own experiences, stuff that I've practiced myself. If it doesn't, pass the sniff test, if it doesn't sound authentic, then I'm not going to teach it. So, it's an important part of what we do. People call me the stuff guy. I warn you, because I cover a lot of stuff very quickly. I sort of teach the way I like to be taught, which is lots of information that I can use immediately. Show of hands, who else agrees with that? I know it's silly because we can't see you, but there we go. Thank you, Anya, for raising that. So you and I are the same. We go to programs looking to take content away. I think there's going to be more than three. Sometimes people, I want three things. You're going to get a lot more than that. Because I am the stuff guy. So there we go. So there's pictures of me all across the country. People I love here, my family, my home unit here. I've got my lovely wife Svetlana and my son Max. Last year we drove across Route 66, and that's us at the Grand Canyon. And then Max just loves our 1973 Mustang convertible, so that's a passion. So for those of you that are Facebook friends, and please friend me immediately. I love being on social media and being very social. You'll see Max and myself at car shows almost every weekend. He's a super YouTuber, so you can go like his channel. But there we go. That's what drives us and makes us do what we do is for our loved ones, right? So there we go. All right, so let's officially kick this off. We have some freebies for you. Some of this is timed, it's the whole webinar, you can get this. So the first thing we're going to mention is that I'm going to talk, I have a free app, talk about a free app that I created many years ago. It's a financing app, but now for some reason, everybody wants to use it, which is great. Have you found that too, Anya, that people want to know about financing all of a sudden? It's become much more topical.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to do it, especially when people are uncertain in this market. You got to create certainty, and financing is one way to do that.
Yeah, and actually, I know your background is you were a salesperson in the builder you worked for. Part of your training was to talk about numbers. It wasn't just the total investment, but that monthly investment as well. Well, I got frustrated that I couldn't find a good way for salespeople to figure out a monthly investment. So I created an app about 5 years ago. We'll go through it later. The point is, it's free for everybody here on the webinar. Just email me, Roland at New Home Sales Plus, and put free financing app, and we'll get it. There's no catch to that whatsoever. I love people using it, and I'm getting feedback all across the country that people are making sales from it. We'll get into what it really does in a little bit during the webinar. That's one. Second one, excuse me, didn't mean to shout again, but I released my book earlier, Mastery of Selling for New Homes. For the first 3 people that email me at Roland and New Home Sales Plus, put in free book, you will get a free book. So quick. I know if you're driving your car, don't do it, please. That's dangerous while listening to this webinar. But if you are in your office, then please, pop me an email and just write free book, and the first 3, it'll be timed. So at the end of this, I'll look at our email and write back. In fact, my manager, Abby, is on the call, Abby Lacatino, and she's going to help me with that as well. If you missed the free book, then anybody else is 20% off the book. If you would still like, that'd be wonderful. And anybody that is on this webinar that would like to hire me for training, coaching, whatever, we have a special Inugo 5% incentive. So far, so good. Lots of freebies we're giving away. And as you can imagine, thank you. Thanks to Anya and John at Inugo. As you can imagine, we're getting lots of calls for training. So we're getting pretty full up very quickly, but we'd love to squeeze you in and also offer a nice limited time incentive. Mainly, here we go, the tropical retreat, drum roll. So Anya is a speaker at our retreat again this year, and she did an amazing job last year, like she always does. She's really is so knowledgeable and so fun to listen to. My idea was that we need training. We always need training. This year, probably as much as any year in the last 5 or 6. So we're going to be again at the Hilton again in Florida, at the Hilton Clearwater Beach Resort and Spa, November the 2nd to 4th. We'll send you information. It's myself and Quint Lears doing the sales training. We have Leah Fellows, who's leading the online sales counselor training. We feel we're better together. So we're going to work very much on the way we work together in the transition. We also have management and leadership and marketing all under the same roof. So we would love for you to come. I'm writing another book, Mastery of Negotiation. It's something I wanted to do, but I wanted to do it sequentially. And I'm going to be giving you a lot of sneak previews to that book at the retreat. I decided that with what I'm getting now, most of my teaching this last month with the builders I work with has spent time on creating urgency and how to negotiate without giving away bottom line profits and that kind of stuff, of course. So I decided, heck, now's a great time to get that book out. So early next year, you'll see that, but you'll get a sneak preview here. And it's myself, Quint, Anya, Leah, and there's 12 of us all told. So there's a back to school special right now, but thanks to your relationship here with Inugo and Anya, we're giving you another $100 off. So it's totaling $200 in savings. So there we go. And we're going to give away a free golden ticket at the end of this webinar. So some of you probably tuned in for that. It's going to be right at the end. You've got to be here to win. I'm going to ask a question that we will have covered in the training today. And all you got to do is on the chat, answer it perfectly correctly. And if you're the first one, you get a free ticket. Sound good? So there we go.
Sounds good to me.
There we go.
And you guys, just so you know, I will be keeping track of the chat too. So if you have any questions, we will get to them at the end. But if something comes up, feel free to ask during, and I will make sure we ask Roland.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. So yeah, for any guest here of Inugo, it's $200 in savings plus this group discount. So there we go. Let's get started, shall we? You ready to rock and roll and go through the content and teach people how to sell in this new shifted market?
I'm ready to have some fun.
Let's do it. All right. So let's get started. So the program today is really is for management and for salespeople. So I try to make it for both. So first of all, evaluation and accountability. We all agree the market's changed completely. So what if most people are telling me they haven't seen anything quite like it, where it's like the spigot or the faucet just was suddenly turned off about a month ago. So we just have to adjust is really what the message is going to be. Do any of you listen to Ali Wolf, who's an economist she's great. I love Ali, and she does, I think, Maya's research. She also does research for NHB. So on her last podcast or webinar, whatever it was last month, she said that really, 2021 were unusual years, obviously with the spike we had. We're really back to 2019. And I found that's very encouraging, because 2019 was really a good year for builders. 18 was good, 2019 was even better, but we had to work hard and we had to work smart, that's all. So everything I talk about today isn't completely new. It's what we did about 3 years ago, but we really did it well at a very high level. So there's a book called Atomic Habits, written by James Clear, and he talks about this, that we should be concerned about our current trajectory more so than with our current results. So, which I think is pretty profound. And he talks about the fact that if you were to get on a plane in California and you wanted to fly to New York, if the direction of the plane was off by just 7 feet, you'd end up in Washington, D.C. So if your trajectory is off by just a few inches, a few feet, then you might end up not where you want to. So my point being that let's have a reboot of what's been going on. Let's let go of the past. What worked 6 weeks ago when people were lining up and really just with an over demand, under supply. That's not going to work anymore. We've got to get back to good old tactics and techniques and processes and empathy and all that stuff. So let's get started with the ideas. So as a sales manager, you definitely need to observe your salespeople with clients and understand that there are seasoned veterans whose skills have atrophied because they haven't used them. And then there are many people that got into the real estate market, right, Anya, over the last 2 or 3 years. So
It was easy money.
Easy money. And look, good job. I know it came with a lot of stresses as well. So no one's faulting that. But if you were new in the last 2 or 3 years, you don't know a lot of this stuff that we're going to go over here and with other trainers in the retreat. So as a sales manager, you've got to observe and see where your sales team are at. Also, what is our attitude like in meetings? Sales meetings are really important. We could spend a whole hour on just sales meetings and making sure they're upbeat and positive, but really, how is their mood? I don't want to be hyperbolic, but between 15 to 20 Zooms a month with clients that we're working with. And I've definitely felt this sort of palpable sadness, depression, almost with the market shifting with a lot of the younger salespeople. And it's rather nice. So the older ones try to lift them up and, hey, it's just 2019. It's no big deal. We can get through this. We work smart. But the meetings are where it begins. Video shops. I'm always a big proponent of video shops. Please email me later if you want names of good companies that we've seen their shops. They do a very good job. But it really is a great time to reset and see what your salespeople are doing. And then only use video shops as a positive training tool. Right, Anya? We don't want to make people feel bad or whatever, but it's a good glimpse into what they're doing. Were you ever shopped in your days as an on-site salesperson?
I don't think I've ever been. I had a couple of suspicions, so maybe by competitors. So nobody ever brought me a tape, which I'm sure would have been horrifying, but in a good way. I get to watch myself on social media every day, so that's enough traumatizing experience to me.
Oh, there we go. No, you're very good on social media. What are you talking about? People love you. You do a great job. There we go. Anyway, we always use it as a positive coaching tool. I go and spend a lot of time on that. If you have questions as a manager on how to use them positively, I do them all across the country. I enjoy doing it, and we'll show the best excerpts to the rest of the sales team to motivate them, and then we'll quietly coach the others who need it on how to get better and improve. And it's all about the next shop and setting that idea up for that. Motivation and training. So as a manager, our job is to train our salespeople. Think of yourself as that coach. And my second quote from Atomic Habits, one of my favorite books, is excuse me, let me get the quote right. James Clear here. Could you read it for me, Anya, for a second?
You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, which I love this quote. It's one of my favorites.
Thank you so much. There we go. My screen was a little blocked, so I appreciate you helping me. I was blocking it there with my lack of technical skills. Exactly. So it's our systems that we're talking about. You can get motivated to motivate everybody, and everyone goes out of there feeling great and empowered. But if you don't have the skills and you don't have the systems to get there, it's not going to work out. So we're going to work very much on your selling systems and processes to make sure that you really have the systems to not only survive, but to succeed in this new market. So as a coach, you want to implement training, structured training plan, sales meetings, of course, upbeat, fun. Meet your salespeople in the field for private coaching. It's important. And then the last thing is to role play every component of your process as well. And when you get good ones, good role plays, then you can video them as well and use those as training tools. So that stuff is just getting back to what we were doing a few years ago, and maybe have let go of some of those essentials. Let's keep going. What I've noticed now, that thanks to this sort of really exuberant market, is that a lot of sales presentations really haven't been very good. And so from the client's perspective, it could feel like this. Has anybody seen the movie Mrs. Doubtfire? Have you seen that, Anya? It's a little bit before your time. It was with Robin Williams, and It's a long story, but he plays he wasn't a very good husband, so he got dressed up as a nanny to be a nanny to his children. And he was a great nanny, it turns out. He found it is a side of himself he didn't know he had. Anyway, early on in the movie, Sally Field is interviewing potential nannies before Mrs. Doubtfire shows up. And she interviews this lady, and she comes and she says, I don't do laundry, I don't do windows, I don't do carpets. And she had this long list of things she didn't do. And it's sort of funny in the movie, but sadly, our sales processes can sound like that. Right, because there's so much confusion. We had price escalations, and then we had pauses, and then you can sell 2 a month or 3 a month, or don't sell, or put an escalator in, and so an escalating clause. So salespeople are just being bombarded with all this information. So their presentation has become, we don't do this, don't do that. So from today on, I want to reboot and talk about what you do as opposed to don't. So it can't be confusing. It can't be negative. Let's get back to being excited and passionate in our presentation. And I'm going to give examples in just a few seconds here, but I just want to make sure that we take ownership of a new presentation that's geared towards buyers coming in today. And we have to remember that there were a lot of buyers that sat on the sidelines. They didn't want to be part of being herded in and out into models and having bidding wars on homes and stuff like that. So that you got a lot of real buyers coming back to the marketplace that really need a really good, empathetic, strong, structured process. So let's talk more about that. Excuse me. So with that in mind, getting back to the essentials, in your discovery, of course, we're going to ask open-ended questions. So that's a reminder for people. So none of those do you, did you questions. It's how, what, when, where. My favorite question, and for those that have worked with me before, I apologize that this is repetitive, but I want to make sure all those new viewers get the information. My favorite question after the greeting is, how did you hear about us? So if you have a pen and want to write it down, how did you hear about our builder? And then the follow-up was, so they're going to say website, Facebook, Zillow, driving by, whatever it's going to be, your Inugo. For some of your people, I saw you on Inugo when you announced that new platform. So the follow-up is what's critical is, what did you see that attracted your attention? Or what caught your attention? Well, and so with the platforms like Inugo, without giving too much away, they maybe built their home online, right? So it's a different era now than it was even 6 or 7 years ago, right? The market has changed. So a lot of people are coming in with lots of knowledge. So instead of starting from the very beginning, how'd you hear about us? Great. What was it that you saw that attracted your attention? Whatever they say, talk about that. That makes sense, everybody? So if it was a home, great. What home did you see? Well, I built one online. Which one was it? Let's look at it. Oh, that's wonderful. What do you like about it? Who else is going to be enjoying that home with you? Those kinds of questions. So let's get into that. I always say curious salespeople are successful salespeople. Be interested, not interesting. Right. So we are interesting. Anya's very interesting, much more than me. Honestly, I enjoy watching all your posts on social media. But it's not about me. It's about who. It's about whom is about the client. So it's a real discipline to be interested and make sure you follow up, talking about how they're going to enjoy spaces, etc. Change your when question is something that's very specific to the current 2022, August 2022, because just saying, when do you want to move? They go, well, I'd like to move immediately. Well, I don't have anything. Bam, you're out. Or they say a year from now, wrong answer. So give to get. So tell them what you can do. Say, we're all sold out temporarily. We'll have our first move-ins will be available in October. When you find a home you like, when you're moving, change the question to suit what you're selling so that you get better answers. Right, Anya? Good. I'll give you a chance to answer that. Sorry. So yeah, so you've got to be flexible and nimble in the market to get a good answer. I'm working with a Ritz-Carlton residences team on the other coast, and their move-ins are 2025. So you want to say, when do you want to move in? We say, we're getting ready now, but opening in 2025. How does that sound? Or when you find a home, when do you think? And just change the question up. Okay, set expectations with the investment. So you might need to have a range. Some of you still, if you are doing pre-sales, maybe you're not locking in the price. So you might say up to, we build homes from the 350s up to the 700s. What did you have in mind? Up to, and have some flexibility if your builder still isn't able to cap a price or at an exact amount. Although most of that has changed even over the last 3 weeks. I don't know if you're seeing that. Prices seem to be stabilizing. Have you found that too, Anya?
Yes, it seems like the market is definitely stabilized a little bit over the last month or so.
Good, good, good. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of those price escalation clauses, maybe they're still in there as sort of a bit of a hangover from 6 months ago, but we're not having to do that. But at least have some flexibility with people so that they can have a buffer. They can be ready if the price was higher. Include macro on your presentation, please. Let's make sure, unless you're selling on your land, which is completely different. That's all about builder story and home. For the rest of us, let's make sure we talk location, location, location. So let's go macro to micro. You know that one of my things is close as you go. So you close out that location. How does it look or feel? And how is after you explain the benefits of the community, then you'll close it out and build that yes bank and make sure that you're in agreement to it, and make sure you've got to build a story that you talk about how you're different and better, and close it out. Get involvement in that. So if you check all those boxes, like the location, like the community, like the builder, now it's just about finding that home, as opposed to making it so home-centric and only about the. I just noticed in some of the video shops that I watched in the last couple of months that for some reason, because our presentations have faltered, it's become very much about the home and not about the other stuff that it really needs to be. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, demonstration. We're of course, a lot of you don't have homes to show anymore. You sold out so quickly, so we got to learn how to sell from a plan as well. If you have virtual reality, that's fantastic, but still a lot of the same rules of in-person model demonstration would apply when you go to corners and angles of the plan and close each space out and that kind of stuff. One of the main things, one of the main skills or the main habits really that has fallen by the wayside is narrowing down to one of a kind. So let's remember that until you've narrowed down to one of a kind, there's no connection, there's no authentic emotional urgency. So even if the client says that they're just looking and they're not quite sure when they're moving, well, hypothetically, let's pick out your favorite plan. Let's look at a home site, a hypothetical home and home site for you. Because if you don't narrow down to one of a kind, then there's no urgency that you're creating. Would you agree with that, Anya?
I agree. I think this is where most new home salespeople struggle with the site selection, narrowing it down to one of a kind. Because if you have kind of a lot of similar looking, it's a field, whatever.
Yeah.
I remember I was always like, okay, let me get out there and like try to figure out what's unique about that specific one. So do you have any tips on that? How do you any questions, or like what are the things to make it okay? This is a good go-to for.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I've done this. I've done it many times with salespeople where they say exactly the same thing. All the home sites are the same, which is one of my favorite things to say, by the way, because then I can prove you wrong. So yeah, that makes me feel good. No, but quite literally, what I want you to do is put some sensible shoes on and your map of the neighborhood, and go out and find 3 features and benefits for every single home site. Some of them might overlap, but include in there your exposure, close to the entrance, far from the entrance, views, front views, side views. I guarantee you that there are no 2 home sites that are identical. They might feel similar. Things like street lamp, fire hydrant, electrical boxes, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that one is good or bad, but it does find that tiebreaker. So when you say, for the home that you like, we have 3 potential home sites, one close to the entrance, sunrise in the back in the morning, and it's included. We have this home site over here with no homes behind it, and has sunsets and it has a small premium, or this one closer to the park, which would have a southern exposure, bright all day, and a higher premium than the first 2. Which would you consider? Which would you like to look at? Some way of comparing those 3 is really important. But it is something I definitely have observed, that the poor salespeople, they're getting so beaten down with pauses and stoppages and not selling and that kind of stuff, that we're forgetting the essentials, that you got to have the buyer fall in love with something if you're going to sell them a home. And so even if you haven't opened up that next collection yet, you can still look at what it's going to be and have them imagine what it will be, and let them know as soon as it opens up for pre-sale, I'll invite you back out and let's pick out your dream home site. How does that sound? Or a view if it's multifamily, that kind of stuff. It works just as well, by the way, with the on-your-lot people out there. I work with a lot of on-your-lot builders, and all my personal coaching told me that the salespeople that narrowed down to a floor plan with some changes, typically maybe plug and play options like you offer, if they narrowed down to a floor plan on the first visit, those were the ones that were outselling everybody else. Again, because buyers, even though they go home and play with the stuff and keep building it, the fact that you guided them into something, that you then give them an approximate price and maybe some finishes, and now they start to fall in love with that. It's something very specific as opposed to an idea of something. Make sense? So
Yes.
these are all essentials, really, but I've seen this stuff sort of fall by the wayside. I want to get back to it, but maybe now do it at a higher level and realize how important each step of this is. So, I'm not going to come here and start talking about negotiation until I know that the essentials are built, the foundation is built. Then if you've done that and you've built value and narrowed down and you involve constantly, and then they want to negotiate, well, then we've earned the right to if we can, to make them feel like they're getting a special a special bonus right now. And then lastly, on closing, certainly ask for the sale. I just worked with a salesperson last week that's new and only been through a good market. And he had a client that came in the next day and he got the sale on the first visit, which was sort of like it was a couple of months ago. And maybe he just needed permission to end properly with that closing. But if you think of this as your movie, you've got to give them the opportunity to get to that point. But my point on this slide is close on the next steps. If you don't have anything to sell, if you are sold out temporarily, then close on what the next steps will be. So Anya, we are sold out here. We're going to open up our next collection in the next 2 or 3 months. Would it be okay if I contact you and invite you back out? Give you sneak preview. Good. All right. So that's the basics. I want to get to some urgency stuff and so forth in a few moments. On vocabulary, I've got some fun don't says. So we've been saying this, the builder made all the selections, or you can't make any selections or changes. That just sounds negative, and there's a picture of somebody looking stressed. Instead, in fact, could I ask you to read for me? Would you mind? I'd love to hear this in your voice. And I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Your home will be professionally curated by our design team to provide the latest and most popular finishes. This will ensure that you maximize your investment and move in as soon as possible. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Well, good. Perfect. Thank you for reading it. By the way, I'm not insisting or even suggesting this is word for word, just so you know. I clearly wrote this. It is how I speak. It's odd. I've been selling my whole life. But it's the idea of it. Instead of just saying the builder chose it, which isn't even true, just painting a positive picture of how what we've put together will benefit the client. So professionally curated by a design team will help build value, move in time. How does that sound? That the good stuff you've been seeing on HGTV, we put this in our home kind of stuff, as opposed to people maybe making a mistake and not doing it that way. Don't say this. In this neighborhood, we're only allowed to sell 2 homes per month. That sounds like you're working for the man who's being cruel to you, and I only get to sell 2 a month, even though you want to sell more. There's a reason why some builders are still doing that. So back to you, Anya. If you could do the do say for me. Here we go. That'd be wonderful.
Sure. In this current market, we could probably sell out our, I'm sorry.
It's hard to read. I didn't ask you.
Probably sell out of our neighborhood in a few days. However, in order to preserve the quality and value of our brand new builder name homes, we're only releasing 2 per month. I'm sure that owning a quality home is important to you. Great. I will make sure that you stay in touch with you until the home becomes available. Sounds good?
Perfect. Thank you. Good. And again, I want to encourage you. I know when people read scripts, it can sound stilted. They're like, oh, I don't like scripts. But it's the idea behind it is that you're building a benefit for the client of why we're doing this. A show of hands, how many of you would like to own a quality home? Everybody. That's an odd thing to say, right? No, I want a bad quality. So we're just, it's the truth to turn it into the fact that, hey, we could have sold a lot more homes here, but in order to preserve the quality, maybe change the first part. Maybe we couldn't sell out today like we could even a month ago. We could sell a lot more homes, but instead we decided to preserve the quality of your home. Is owning a quality home important? Great. So we're in the right place. That's the kind of thing I want to get back to, is building benefits for what we're doing. All right. One of my favorite things now, as we said earlier, Anya and I agreed that you have to have a working idea of numbers. I created an app, as I said, about 5 years ago. All the builders I work with actually get this for free. It's something that I decided it was important enough to give it away that way. But I found in the last 2 months that I'm getting a lot more interest. People are really using it a lot more. There's a quote from a buddy of mine called Scott Backman. I was on the phone the other day. He said, Roland, a new home salesperson who doesn't do numbers is like a pilot who doesn't do landing. Scott has a little plane, so that probably was front of mind for him. But I totally agree. Those days of pretending that we can't understand financing are gone. I know that a couple months ago you didn't need to, and so I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that we qualify a buyer or that we don't turn them over to our lender. But what I've found is that some buyers just it's much more about the monthly investment for them than the price of the home. And so all the externals right now, right, Anya, are all about interest rates are high, prices could be up, etc. et cetera, or prices are sort of volatile. So let's try to switch the focus. Let's start with what we talked about, have them fall in love with a specific home and a home site or a view, and then let's turn that into a monthly investment as quickly as possible. And if that works for them, then why do we care about the darn interest rate or the price? And most of you by now have some kind of mortgage-related incentive that we'll get into anyway. So the app works really well for that. So let me just quickly showcase it. I'm not selling it because it's free, so I don't want you to think that I'm pushing this on you, but I've got sales teams that are using it very, very gladly. The first three things it does, it's the most simple mortgage calculator. When I had this idea, it was about 5 years ago, and I thought, well, maybe just go find a mortgage calculator. And I couldn't find one unless you had ads from mortgage companies, and it just drove me crazy. So this one is yours. When you download it, the other thing I put in here that others don't do is you estimate taxes and insurance. So I actually read an article in the Wall Street Journal that said mortgage calculators are the devil. They're evil because they don't advise people about taxes and insurance. And I agree with that. That's wrong. It's not just PI, it's PITI, of course. So what happens is I've worked with my teams I work with, and we'll get an estimate of taxes and insurance from their lender, their preferred lender. We'll plug it in one time and it stays in the app for the rest of the time they use it. And then you can actually tell people what's really going on. It gives you a PMI, the insurance if it's less than 20% down. The thing I love the most is that you can then forward this to your client and it has all your contact info on it. So when you download the app, you put, Anya Christensen and Nugo Realty, let's say, and your phone number and email. So whether you meet the client in the office up front and they don't know what they should be looking at, well, why don't I show you? It takes me just a second, and you guide them, and then you can either text it to them or you can email it to them. You could actually WhatsApp it if you wanted, but anyway, any of those things, and it comes from you. Or at the end, when you're sitting at your desk for your formal recap, you could have it on your computer, on your laptop, and it does the same thing. But either way, you send it from you. So it's really personalized, which I love. All right, sound good?
Sounds good.
Good. So the next thing, and this baffled me for wherever I worked, with all my sales teams, there's never a way to back into a mortgage payment. Meaning, well, let's say you get somebody that's in a rental and they're very comfortable with their monthly payment or thereabouts, and and they say, well, we want to stay between $1,800 to $2,000 a month. Well, how do you quickly figure out how much spending power that is? So the second feature of the app is called Pay Easy. You would put their budget in. So let's say 2,000, whatever it is. Actually, I can make it a little bit bigger. Put my glasses on and read the example on the screen. Here we go. I did 2250, 25,000 is their initial investment at 5.8%, estimating taxes at 1 and insurance at 0.75, which is about what it is where I live in Miami. Then the purchase price would be 332. There we go. So I've worked with other builders. We had spreadsheets and ways of doing it, but they were cumbersome. You can do this in a second now. So you can advise somebody, hey, and how does that look? Now, if you don't have a home for 332, what are your choices? Well, you could look at a buy down and look and show them what the rate would be, or look at a larger down payment. But now you've got control in your hand, where you can guide people very, very quickly and easily. Again, just for those that are cautious, I've got to highlight, this is for estimate only. There's a big fat disclaimer at the bottom that says this is not qualifying. I got legal language from an attorney that I put there so that when you show this to people, they're not thinking that you're qualifying them. It says the actual payment will vary based upon what taxes, credit, etc. But it's a good way to get people excited. Well, I can do that. That's in my budget, and we can go look at that. So again, you've got power back just by in seconds. The fun one is reduced to the daily. So do you ever get people that, well, if you just give me this amount of money, I would go ahead. For me, where I worked for almost 10 years, it seemed to be always $10,000 that buyers would want. So back in the old days, I would know what $10,000 was on a daily basis. I'd write it down on a yellow little sticky piece of paper and go, look, you're talking about $2.50 a day. You wouldn't let the same as that cup of coffee stand in the way of your happiness. And they would start laughing and chuckling and then, whoa, split the coffee with me. But I got their attention. People very rarely go, yippee-ki-yay, I'm going to buy right now. But they, that's, I never thought of it that way. So it's a true statement. Even, 5.8 is what I put in here, 12,500. So that $12,500 is only $244 a day. So maybe it's a home site premium or premium home site. Maybe it's the gourmet kitchen they dreamt about. And for some reason, they drew a line in the sand at a certain price, and you say, well, look, I just show you that 12,500 at today's rate, it's only $2.44 a day. And they go, oh, it makes sense. It's sort of a game changer for people. You're not selling on it. You're just empowering them to do what they want to do anyway, to feel better about what they want to do anyway, which is really what it's all about. All right. Fun stuff, right?
Hey, I
Last
never have any trouble talking myself into making purchases.
There we go. Exactly. So you and I were both high eyes, and it's easy to justify it. But now you have a tool to make it even easier. So when you go shopping out there, you can show people that. Well, good. The last thing on financing I want to talk about is this. And this actually, there's a button on here called cost of waiting. And when I created it, I thought, well, I created it 5 years ago. So I want to show people that your buying power would be strong then. And when rates go up, it's going to be terrible. And look what happens. But now we can work it in reverse. I just figured this out about 2 mornings ago over coffee. I thought, what if I do the buy down rate and show the difference? And sure enough, it works perfectly. So I've got an example. So let's say that today's rate is 5.5%, and that you have a program, an incentive where you're buying it down to 4.5%. So and maybe it's costing you $10,000 or $12,000. So a very sort of, I don't know, negative buy. Oh, it's only $10,000 you give me. I want more than that. No, it's not $10,000. Check this out. This is the effect it's going to have. So if it's a permanent buy down on a $500,000 home, putting 20% down, if today's rate is 5.5%, you buy it down to 4.5%. Check this out. The monthly difference is $244 a month. That may move the dial. It should, but look, check this out. Over 30 years, it's $87,989. Pretty amazing, right?
It is amazing.
So there we go. So the difference of what we're giving to you, if it is a builder incentive, maybe it's just a buy down, and they have to you can encourage them to participate. It depends on you and what your program is, or maybe you're using it as a closing tool to say, well, you seem to be concerned about the rate. What if we could do a buy down to this? Would you consider moving forward? Can I just show you how that would impact you? And quite literally, in the moment it takes you to turn on your phone and do it, you can show them that they're saving enough for at least one good college education, or for you it'd be like a nice shiny sports car, I think, wouldn't it?
Depends what college you go to, right?
There we go. Good. And so even on if you have a 7-year adjustable or 10-year adjustable, you can show them part of that. If it's just a 10-year, you divide that number into thirds is all, because it wouldn't be 30 years of savings as a 10-year. It's fixed for 10 years, but the same concept. You show people what they're saving. All right, sound good? So there we go. Some new stuff I really wanted to get into in our process as a manager. The market shifted. The game has changed very, very quickly. We've got to lean into it as fast as we can and understand it and embrace it. I'm pretty old by now. It scares me, but this is my fifth. There we go. Sort of a change in the economy that's impacting home sales. I would say the first 3, I was terrified. I didn't know what was going to happen, and yet we got through it. The big recession, that was a whole nother story. This one, when you look at the other externals, it doesn't seem to worry most people. I could go into that all day long, I guess, the economics of it all, the macroeconomics. Inflation does seem to be coming down, and unemployment's low. I don't want to, I'm not taking sides, but it looks like this is just a blip that we have to understand. But we as managers have to change pretty darn quickly in the way that we package and present our homes to succeed. So the first thing is prices. We have to be realistic. Most builders can be honest and admit the prices escalated very, very quickly. So what you need to do as quickly as you can, is a market analysis of your market. I have a few managers out there. I'm going to give a shout out to Eben Petty, who's a director of sales at Robertson Brothers in Detroit. He's been a manager for 25 years, and he was the first on our mastermind group that said he's just changing things quickly. He just didn't hold. He came out with incentives. He was the first of about 20 managers that we worked with that did that. He just recognized, hey, we're back to where we've been many times. 2018, 2019 in this case. So have a look at prices, and you cannot go to the owner of the company until you have real data. You're not just going to say, I think we're too high or whatever. You need data. There's a comparison of what it costs to build, but also what's on the market and what your buyers are looking at. Included features. I was talking to Jenna Parker, if you're on the call, at Stevens Fine Homes in Wilmington, and she is reevaluating their included features and turn it around because they want to be competitive. They also have curated packages because they had supply chain issues on certain features. So now they do bundles. The buyers are happier. The buyers come in, they've got wonderful luxury bundles of the things they wanted anyway, but everything's available. And it also, perception is reality. So the perceived value is higher because they're included higher quality finishes that they know they can get. So that's another one. A pricing strategy, we'll get into that today in the remaining 20 minutes. We'll talk about what that includes, but we're in retail. It just so happens our products are brand new homes. But you got to think retail and what's your pricing strategy? We're not going to give away below a bottom line or give away or give up margin, but how are you getting people to buy now? It's not just why my builder, why my community, but why are they buying now? And we'll talk about incentives. They don't make buyers out of non-buyers. They just make real buyers buy more quickly. And that's what we're looking to do, is have that tipping point with a pricing strategy that may or may not include incentives. That, again, up to each of you and how you want to implement that. Designer showcase homes. Some of you have not had this issue. That's my word for spec. I have a little ball. If you say the word spec or lot, I'm going to throw this little foam ball at you. But that's what I mean. A home that's on the market to be sold. We like to call it designer showcase, move-in ready home. It sounds nicer. But now some of you actually have homes that are finished and haven't sold. It's like, oh, what is this? This is so 2018 all over again. So we'll talk about evaluating those homes and making sure that we're presented properly. Something interesting, and again, I learned so much from all of you. I believe it was it Terry at Bosgraf in Holland, Michigan. I think was the first to bring this to my attention. We talked about motivation and getting motivators or whatever, and she went to her sales team, and it turned out that what was unmotivating them was their compensation. It was built on last year's model where you had backlogs and stuff like that. The market has shifted. Some of that stuff canceled, right? A lot of these, you might be looking at a backlog of 50 or 60 homes, and we all know people are canceling, and we've got to rewrite it. Well, think about your salesperson and their compensation package. Is it really married to today? Is it up to date for August 2022? And can you look at that? Some teams give choices of different ways that they can get compensated, and all of a sudden, Terry's team in Michigan found that they got motivated again. And not to sound sort of sarcastic, they're great salespeople, a lot of great skills, but they have to pay the bills and know there's a steady stream of income. They are committing their lives, their weekends, they're working very hard. They're a talented team, so it's only right to have a look at that and make sure that it's fair. So an interesting approach, but again, all about empathy and shifting quickly, both in the sales tactics and in how you manage. Anything to add on that, Anya? Does that make sense to you, by the way?
Makes sense to me. Good.
All right. I think it's an awesome way to look at it. It's unusual, but I know that often it's the other process. Let's keep moving forward though. With your homes, I created this acronym a long time ago, and I did it for myself as a manager. Whenever we had some move-in ready designer showcase homes that hadn't sold, I created a map. So your M is for how is that home being marketed? What is the appearance? And then let's have a look at the pricing and promotion for that. So I'm a big acronym guy. Oh, there we go. So you want a beautiful home, but does your home possibly look like this? I know it doesn't, sort of a joke. What you want to do, of course, is look like this. So on the marketing side, is it being marketed correctly? Are you getting the eyeballs onto that? Is the appearance good? So when I did this, my own builder, as a director of sales for 4 years, just recently, and I did an evaluation of every single home. Sometimes it was just painting a certain wall or staging certain rooms or adding landscaping. Maybe the landscape had wilted, or literally putting flowers in front of a home. So on the appearance, it didn't mean we had to spend many thousands of dollars. If we had a budget sometimes, and we put it into the home, and sure enough, the perception of the home changed. And then certainly pricing and promotion. Is there a promotion that's causing excitement? If you need that, some people quite correctly say, look, in my market, it's just an incentive to have a home to move into. And I totally agree with that. If you're in a market where there's still a supply shortage, that's wonderful. But for the rest of us in other markets where homes might be sitting on the market, but put together a map and evaluate it properly and make sure that which one of these it is to get it sold. Sound good? All right, let's keep going. So on the marketing front, companies like Inugo that can help promote. Let's talk about a pricing strategy. Here we go. There are 2 quotes from Demings. Demings was the fellow that went to Japan and helped the whole motor industry get started over there. He systematized things. Would you be able to read those quotes for me, please, Anya?
Sure. It is not necessary to change. Survival isn't mandatory. Learning is not compulsory. nor is survival.
There we go. I love those quotes. Those are right in your face. Like, what did he say? Learning is not compulsory, nor is survival. That's how I am. I'm a lifelong learner. I don't want to rest on my laurels ever and think that I know it all. I'm always learning, always growing. All of us, I think, should be the same way. I know you're the same way, Anya. We talk about books regularly, our audibles. But in the same way, what worked for us over the last 2 years, it's not going to work. It's not working effectively anyway. So let's look at how we survive and then thrive after that. So with a pricing strategy, we've got to let go of the past and other pricing biases. I can't tell you how many owners will say, well, we don't negotiate, we don't do we don't do incentives. Well, you just did negotiate, and if you didn't get the sale, then you lost. I'm sorry to tell you, so saying that just arbitrarily, we don't negotiate, and you had a buyer that wanted to buy a home from you and maybe just wanted something in your pricing strategy. If you let that buyer go, then you've actually lost that negotiation. So I'm not suggesting that we should have incentives or we should negotiate, but if we're going to do it, let's do it well. That's my theory as a coach, is if you're in a market where it is necessary to reevaluate and have a strategy that creates demand now, then let's let go of those old biases and get over it. It's not a stain against us. It's not a criticism. Almost everything that you buy in retail has some kind of a strategy behind it. We just might not be aware of it. Makes sense. Would you agree with that, Ms. Anya?
I would say so.
Yeah. The other day I found myself, I like to go grocery shopping. It's odd, but I find it quite therapeutic once in a while. And so I had to get cereal for the family, and it was buy one, get one at half price off, I think, for the next box of Cheerios. So I bought the second box. Now, I think I can afford the second box, but I really love that I got the second one at half price kind of stuff. So it was just a strategy. So now we have 2 big boxes of Cheerios, and maybe we'll be loyal to that brand or something. I don't know what their philosophy is, but this stuff really does work if we implement it in a systematic way and in a positive way and building value. Let's look at some of the details. So you've got to analyze your current pricing. So you've got to understand where you're at as quickly as possible. So for those managers that haven't done that, you need to get those CMAs out and look at the market. And then let's create a retail strategy that creates urgency for why now, and get people off the spot without giving away the farm or looking like we're desperate. And again, it's only going to work for people that are interested in buying anyway. You're not going to drive in uninterested people, right? That's just not the idea of it. But if they're in the market and are thinking they like your home, especially with a talented salesperson that causes an emotional connection to a one of a kind, and then you say, oh, by the way, we have this whatever it is for the month of August or whatever the strategy we'll get into, then that could get them to move forward. All right, so let's look at some of the strategy. Oh, here we go. So this is a really important slide. I packed a lot into it, so apologize for the amount of information on it, but please focus on this page. There's a lot of good stuff here that we're going to share with you. A lot to unpack in the next 10 minutes, and then we'll wind down a little bit. So there are 2 types of incentives that we have. There's a published and a non-published. And so again, the question we need to ask ourselves is why my builder, but then why now? And so I said it before, here's the quote: incentives don't make buyers out of non-buyers, they make real buyers buy more quickly. Makes sense? That's what your strategy is. You're not bribing your way into sale. That's horrible. I've never seen that work at all. It's just a strategy to get the extra sales we should be. So here's 4 rules of incentives. These are really important. So please focus, everyone. With a published incentive, the goal is to drive in traffic and make sales. So they have to have a reason. Number one, what's the reason for it? And I don't have much time left, but things like a grand opening, grand closeout, back to school, fall into savings for Thanksgiving, whatever it is, time it to something, but it has to have a reason to be credible. And again, the general public is conditioned to understand that stuff. They know what a grand opening or grand closeout means, and they understand that's a good reason for an incentive. So reason is one. Terms. If you're making notes, this is one of the most important things. I want to negotiate terms, not price. So terms such as they have to invest now in August, they're going to close by a certain date. If it's a pre-sale, maybe 10 days of CO. If it's a financing incentive, of course, they've got to use your preferred lender and get approved by a certain time frame. That way, if they come back and want to negotiate, you can negotiate terms and say, well, you wanted this, but or if you want this, but maybe you have to use our mortgage company to put a larger down payment, but you have to have terms in there to have something that's tangible. An expiration date, either real or implied. So that has to go away. End of August is fine, or grand opening would go away when the grand opening we say is over, but that creates urgency. And then in writing. You got to make sure it's in writing. So just to reiterate that, the 4 rules of incentives: has to have a reason, has to have terms, has to have an expiration date, and has to be in writing. And so what creates the most urgency on that? Do you know, Anya, what is the one thing on that would create somebody that would maybe cause a sleepless night going, I like the home, I don't want to miss out? Do you know
Probably the expiration. I mean, because
you
it's going
yeah.
away.
Yeah, thank you. I tried to put you on the spot, but exactly right. It's the expiration date of the incentive. So if you're consistent in writing it and dating your material and saying good through, that's what's going to drive a real buyer to come back. All right. And if they don't come back in time and then it's changed, then you can show them that. Say, I'm really sorry. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. All right. So the next idea is, if you, some of the builders I work with have back pocket incentives. If you're going to do that, I know this is scary to a lot of people and there's a bias against it. We just haven't needed it. But if you're in the market and maybe in a higher price range where it's normal, here's some basic rules. So set clear boundaries and create excitement and protect profit. So the owner, the builder, needs to meet with the sales manager and understand what your boundaries are. Because I don't want you to give away more than what you have to give away. That's not the idea. I just want to create excitement for buying now with some kind of a pricing strategy. And the goal is to negotiate the sale where the client's in front of you, where their buying temperature is high. All right. And then an important idea, back pocket incentives should be used as closing tools, not an opening statement. Right. So if we had 2 hours on this, and actually at the retreat, I'm going to be talking about urgency and how to negotiate without giving away the farm and all this kind of stuff. So we'll do a deep dive into it. But if somebody asks you up front, what's your incentive? We're not going to go there. We're going to table it and say that we do have limited time incentives, but let's find the home site, figure out when you want to move in. I'd be happy to share that with you. That's how I say it. But you definitely don't want to start with, we're giving away blank. Right? Because if you do that, what's wrong with it? They're going to think you have more. They're going to think you're desperate, and they aren't going to believe you. So, if they want to negotiate and we're able to, let's have clear boundaries. We're not going to give more than what we have to give away, but let's follow some rules to make it work. And then, lastly, with this kind of stuff, and then we'll wrap up a little bit, I believe, here. What we've got, there's some strategies here, and let's see. We've got the mastery of negotiation. I decided to fast track my next book, Mastery of Negotiation. I said before, because there's so many great tactics. I learned this stuff a long time ago from masters like Herb Cohen, who said, what is his book called? I've got it on my shelf. It's not Never Split the Difference. And anything can be negotiated, but there's great stuff in there. And then Chris Voss, you and I were talking about this, Never Split the Difference. They all say a lot of the same stuff. So I really want to make sure that we're equipped with how to negotiate to create a win-win. So let me get to the point here. A win-win is when you sell a home, the seller's happy, we're happy, and the buyer's happy. What would a lose-lose be, do you think, Anya?
Everyone's miserable.
Yeah, you don't sell the home and the buyer leaves, even though they came in to buy a home. So that's a lose-lose, in my opinion. A win-lose. Do you know what a win-lose might be?
Maybe you won, but the buyer lost.
Very good. You're really onto this stuff. Exactly right. The buyer doesn't feel like they got anything. What would a lose-win be? Do you know that?
The opposite.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's the same idea. You've made the sale, but our builder's like, why do you give too much away? Why did you do that? And I used to get told off a lot when I was younger and selling homes, because I had taken these classes and I felt I was empathetic, but I had to learn not to give so much away and to build value and hold ground, etc. So here's three basic rules. Give to get. So I mentioned it earlier in incentives, but don't negotiate terms, not price. So if you had a back pocket incentive, and it's not in here, I don't think, but really it's one of those things where you say, if I could, would you? So if you could get that quartz countertop as opposed to granite, would you go ahead? And we're going to use a higher authority for that, not committing that you will do that. And then if you're going to do that, get something back. I've got a long list of at least 12 items you can get back, but it's things like getting approved faster by our mortgage company, putting a larger deposit, closing sooner, not making it a contingent. Maybe they thought they had a home to sell, but well, if we're going to do this, my owner and my manager has asked that we make it non-contingent, those kinds of things. So all of a sudden they're going to feel good, like they really won something from from you because you asked for something back, but at the same time you're getting something good from them. So an earlier closing date, larger deposit, approval quicker, maybe not subject to somebody else's approval or something like that. Those kinds of things. So switch their focus on a move-in ready home or designer showcase. It would be the actual move-in date. You talked about closing end of September. What if we can make it the third week of September in order to get this great value? Would you consider, I guess we would, we get that price or we get that incentive. So now you've made the closing early if that's what you want to do. A fun one that we'll get into at the retreat is using an odd number. If you are going to come back with something and it's not an incentive off of financing and you were willing to give some money back. So instead of making it, $5,000, for me, it would be $2,357. Have you heard that before? The idea of an odd number?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, well, actually, in the Chris Voss book, he talks about it. I've used it ever since I learned it a good 20 years ago, and it makes buyers feel like you really worked on that number, and it's an exact number. Very rarely will they come back and try to alter it because they feel that you really mean it. So you can make thousands of extra dollars for your company that way, but also the buyer is happy, because they felt like they got a better value because it was an odd number, not an even number. Never, as he says, never split the difference. You brought it up when we talked last week, like, how could I do that? Or what do you want me to do with that? Put it on them and then come back with good news. I've spoken with a manager. What if we could do this? There we go. And lastly, the third big concept out of really 15 amazing negotiating tactics that we'll cover at the retreat. The third one is to use the higher authority. Don't commit. Say, let's put it together. Let's write it up. And I'm going to present it to my manager, right? If you commit too quickly, what's wrong with that, Anya? If you say, oh yeah, that sounds great, let's go ahead and do it. What are they going to feel if you do that?
They're not going to feel that excitement when it actually gets accepted. Surprise.
Yeah. And they're also going to think, well, wait a minute. You just accepted my offer, so I'm negotiating with you this whole time. I don't like the way that feels, and why didn't you give me more? And maybe I'll get buyer's remorse tonight because I should have asked for more. So if you use a higher authority, let's put it together. I learned from a great manager I had. His name is Neil, and he would want me, if it was close, and we already knew our boundaries, but he wanted me to put it on paper to make sure that his phrasing was to make sure that there are no surprises, which I love. I use it to this day. Let's put it together to make sure there are no surprises, and I'll present it to my manager, knowing that it's within the parameters, that you're not asking for anything unusual, but you're creating a win-win. The buyer feels excited. You have to remember to call them the next day, by the way. Hey, good news. Or if you have to change something, you could invite them back in to say, well, really close, but let's meet and fine tune this together, kind of stuff. Please don't do it over the phone or by email. Bring them back in to negotiate in person, because buying is emotion backed by logic. You're going to be in that beautiful home or design studio, whatever you're able to choreograph for them. But the bottom line is, I'm not suggesting, so there are probably people on this call thinking, oh my goodness, Roland's advocating incentives and negotiation. No, I'm just saying, I want you to be pragmatic. If that's what your market is bearing, be good at it. Be better than everybody else. Don't panic. Don't give away the farm. Don't give away unnecessary profits, right? Just have a pricing strategy that creates excitement, creates a win-win, and gets you those sales. All right. Sound good?
I agree.
Let's see what else we got coming up here. Is this there we go. Really quickly, you and I are avid learners, as we said. My second favorite book this year, I've done on Audible, it was Atomic Habits. And so I'm very intrigued with this idea as a coach of how do you make actions into habits. So really quickly, he has this in his Audible. Make it obvious. So when you want to change something, so if you want to follow up more, then get your list of leads out that night before on your CRM and have it ready to go in the morning. Make it obvious. Make it attractive. You and I talked about this before. He calls it habit stacking, bundling. So I wanted to read more and exercise more. So I signed up for Audible, and I go out early in the morning and go for long walks, about 45 minutes to an hour, and listen to books on tape. It's been amazing. I've learned so much, and I'm healthy both mentally and spiritually, but I made it easy and attractive. So those are those two things. And then make it satisfying. If you, right now, we're going to generate a lot more traffic because we're not getting as much traffic. So we're going to follow up diligently. So when you get an old lead to come back, maybe a lead that's more than 60 days old, celebrate that. Let your manager know, or if you're a manager, congratulate your salesperson, because if you reward those activities become habits, and those habits lead to sales. You can easily predict, right, your success this week and next week by looking at how many appointments you have with B-backs, people coming back in. So let's create those people. Let's practice follow-up, appointment setting, working with realtors again. Now everyone loves realtors, like qualified leads. Make it into a habit is my point.
Yeah, celebrate small wins.
Thank you. Celebrate small wins. The word action, I was looking at it one day and I thought, what if you move the I to the front? Look at this, and it's I act on. So this training is pointless. It's a wasted hour if you don't act on it. So I encourage you, as soon as you can, if you're at a desk, then do it right now. If you're going to listen to this later in the car, then do it when you get home or back to the office. But Tony Robbins said this: the path to success, take massive determined action. Completely agree. Don't overanalyze it, but pick out 3 concepts. There you go. There's a rule of 3. This is get more than 3, just 3 from this list of so many. But pick out 3. What concept did you like? What's your action plan? And when are you going to implement it? If you don't answer the when question, then it's a wish list, right? So if you want to get better or whatever it was, a retail strategy, what resources do you need? And then when are you going to do it? Well, I'm going to meet Monday with my marketing team and the owner. Good. I'm going to do a CMA this week or whatever it's going to be to figure out the values. Get going now. There's no excuses. Let's get it done and embrace the market that we're in and make those changes. Take action. All right. What's the worst that can happen? You're just going to sell more homes and have happier salespeople. That's all. Now we get to the good stuff, I think. We've got some giveaways coming up. Those of you like, my gosh, he's teasing us. He won't shut up. I know what he's doing, because we're going to give away a golden ticket. I actually, this is the most nervous I've ever been on any webinar ever, because we're giving away a ticket to the retreat. We really are. Excuse me, all high pitched. Oh, you see, I'm getting excited. It's
who's coming with us? Who's going to party?
It's $1,300 right now for that ticket for the program. So it really is meaningful. Before I get there, though, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I hope these ideas.
We loved having you. Thank you so much for sharing all this goodness.
You are so kind. And I get very excited when people email me with their success stories. So please email. If you want the app, if you haven't emailed already and you're listening to this webinar later on, it's still available. Any of you, a new Go guest, email me for that. If you'd like a book and missed the free ones, I'm sure we gave away those very quickly, then with an incentive, then please email me and make sure that you tell me who to sign the book to or how many you'd like. So we've got 20% off of that. Let's see. Any new clients that would be interested in talking about coaching, consulting, give me an email or email me, and we'll make a date to talk as soon as possible. And again, we'll give you an incentive of 5% off of that for the month of August. So that's quite meaningful. All right. So I'm ready to give away a free golden ticket.
All right, you ready? Let's see. We're going to ask you a question. So first person to respond correctly.
Wait. Are there questions that people are asking me already? I forgot. You were doing question and answers. Should we do any question and answers or go to this?
Well, let's do this real quick, and then if we have time at the end, we're going to do that.
Easy.
First person to respond correctly.
Wait. So just to be clear, it's coming to the retreat. It's on the beach. It doesn't include hotel. The hotel would be separate. We have a negotiated rate for the hotel. Every room is on the beach. It's very, very reasonable. It's like an airport Hilton or something. The prices are amazingly low, but you just have to get there, and the hotel is on you. But the tuition, which includes beautiful cooked breakfast, yoga, free yoga, chair massages, beautiful cooked lunches. There's a pool, there's a party on the beach, a luau. That's all included. All right. So now I'm going to shut up and let you ask the question.
Well, it looks like we already have responses because people jumped in front. Okay, so the question is, what did Roland say the 4 rules of incentives are?
Good. So I'm going to be very picky. It's got to be word for word here.
All right, so Roland, you got to look at the chat and see who the winner is. So we have.
Well, it has to be the first person
reason, terms, expiration in writing. Is that right?
Yes. And who is this delight? Is that the first one?
Jolene Fielden.
Say it again.
That's the first person. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correct.
Can you say her name?
Terms, expiration in writing.
And this person was the first one in the queue. She is right. Could you mention her name again and let's get her?
So name is Jolene Fielden. I'm hopefully pronouncing the name correctly.
Good. All right.
Congratulations.
Very good. Congratulations. Were there many others that are writing it as well?
Lots of people wrote in, yes, because we should have held the question till revealing it, but
Oh, that's true. There we go. They read it and answered. There we go. We're not good at this because we're not used to giving away $1,300 in a ticket. So can we ask Jolene who does she work for? What does she do? And just to be clear, we have 3 tracks. We have sales, online sales counselor, and management. So she can pick in any one of those 3 tracks. Jolene can come to, depending what she felt would be a better fit for her. Who does she work for? It's exciting.
Coventry Homes.
And great. And where is Coventry Homes? Sorry to be so picky.
I think, I don't know.
I hope it's somewhere cold. Is it up north somewhere? Is it like Iowa or Idaho? One of those.
I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you're connected with Jolene, and then you can get her all the information as far as which track she wants to attend. So between the sales, between the management track, or OSC. So well, congratulations. This was very exciting. Okay, so I guess if we're already past the time, but if we have any burning questions.
Thank you, Kurt Anderson. Kurt is one of my old buddies there up in Delaware. Great manager. You're very welcome. Thank you for that popping out. Look, how many? You had 58 chats or something? 58,
yeah, lots of people responding.
Donna,
yes.
Oh, you're all very welcome. What did I want to say? What did I want to say? That was oh, you know what I'm thinking is that anybody else that got those right, if you could share them all with me, because I don't know how to actually extract this from I'll look at it and email them and give them some special value for sure if they want to still come.
Oh, that's nice. I'll share the chat with you.
Yeah, I'll come up with something that's even better than what we're doing right now. The promotion, and it's up to them. We got one winner. It's a lot for us to do, but we wanted to create excitement and reward somebody with a what's it called? You give a free tuition scholarship.
Scholarship, yes. So this is super exciting. And if you guys still want to join us, you can also hopefully get your company to pay for it. Make sure to use discount code ANUGO to save $200 off the purchase price. So you will join us on the beach. I'm definitely excited and I can't wait. So Roland, thank you so much for being here today and for presenting. This was a lot of fun, and we can't wait to see everybody in Florida together. Yeah, it's together, right?
It's going to be amazing. I want to encourage any managers there, if you can bring a team down here. One of the things I want to reiterate, that's serious training for serious time. The first thing is training. That's why you're coming. But it's on the beach. It's a great setting. It's great for team building. So we have 2 teams of 10 already coming down. Lisa from New York's bringing our whole team. And if it's feasible, if your budgets are starting over again and it's in the budget, think about how many people you can bring down. The theme is better together. So sales, on OSC, leadership, marketing, they're all going to get a lot out of the information, but that team building opportunity is pretty rare. And Abby and myself will certainly work with you on group incentives to make sure that you feel like you got a great value, just like I'm teaching. Right now for back to school, we've got those savings, but if there's a group, then we'll certainly work something out. Delayed payment, that kind of stuff, whatever it is, we just want you to make sure that you don't miss out on this amazing opportunity.
Amazing. So he preaches what he teaches.
There we go.
He practices what he teaches. So well, thank you so much, Roland. Again, it was a pleasure to have you on today. I've learned a lot. So hopefully it was a great learning for everybody else, and definitely refresher for our veterans. And you guys, good luck with sales. I know it's been hard the last couple of years. So you got this, and we'll see you all in November.
Yeah, we've got your back. We'll see you there. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.